Welcome to SPK Speak Sports. On our station, we talk about baseball and sports news, from the most recent stories to the throwbacks. Listen now to Scott, Paul, and Kelly on SPK Speak Sports as they hit the ball out of the park.
You hit the ball out of the park, Speak Sports.
Well, you found us. Hello. My name is Scott.
I'm Paul.
And I'm Kelly.
The three of us are SPK Speak Sports. Well, there's not much going on politically in the country, so why don't we talk a little baseball? Or as the woke people say, a little cricket. Okay. We each decided amongst us, it was a command decision that we made a few days ago, to each take two of the different divisions. So I got, because it was the last two, you guys, pulled rank. Again, you're the most woke of the three. I've got the AL Central and the NL West. So a little bit about the NL West, it'll be the Dodgers. Or the Padres. Those are two. I at this point, like I said a few weeks ago, like Yogi said, predictions are tough, especially when they deal with the future. So I don't know. The Padres have Clevenger, who's a monster on the mound. Davies. The Dodgers. I got to ask you a question because I was looking at the pitching, and you mentioned this stat. The Dodgers. I mean, to me, after Kershaw, they got Kershaw. They as a starter.
It's not that simple. Tony Gonsolin, who's pitching today and struck out the first six batters he faced. I think he'd struck out 9 through 4, although he was behind 2-0 when we took the air. Gonsolin's a real good thrower. I think he's about 1.7 ERA this year. Okay. If Walker Buehler, if his finger heals from a blister, he's a formidable force. But the last time out, he was not able to throw curveballs, and they just camped out on his fastball.
Well, I would have said Buehler, but he has one win, and right. So if Buehler, I think that's a big key. If Buehler can be healthy for the playoffs, there's no doubt. If he isn't, Dodgers probably pretty good shot anyway. Yeah. But with Buehler, probably lights out. Yeah. AL Central, got the White Sox and the Twins, and probably the Indians in it. Indians are kind of flattened out. The White Sox, Yankees were 10-0 in the last 10 games. White Sox next best team at 8-2. They got Giolito on the mound. They got Dennis Keuchel. They got a guy Dylan, and I can't pronounce his last name, Cease. He's been very good. They got Colomi. So they've got 4 starters. You really only need 2. In a short series, the first wild cards for a 3-gamer, but they've got 3, possibly 4 starters, and with the hitting they have, to me, I would say right now my 2 divisions, the teams that could easily be playing in the World Series, the White Sox and the Dodgers, of my 2 divisions. Mm-hmm. Kel, what do you got?
Well, I have the American League East, and that has Tampa Bay Rays are in first place at this point, and we talked about this before, is that there's hardly anybody you can name on that team other than Snell or Glasnow, the pitchers, and they're just a great team, and I was looking at their roster, and they're kind of the type of team, it's kind of like going to a chili cookout. And you taste all the different chili, and you can identify sometimes the flavor. This is a little too hot, this is a little too spicy. And then you taste some chili, and it's like, wow. But you can't identify any of it. It just is wow. And that's how Tampa is. They just win.
They have nobody on any major level, batting or pitching wise, in the top 5.
No,
nobody.
Yeah, and their pitching, they have a lot of relief pitchers, and they have low ERAs. They don't walk anybody, and their hitters. The only guy I know is Brian, and now his name escapes me because I can't even think. Brian. Whatever it is, I don't know.
Brian from Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Number 28.
Yeah. Yeah. Lowe. Brian Lowe.
That's it.
And there's a Nate Lowe. Well, this is Brian Lowe. And he's probably a guy that's like their best hitter. And it's not that, they don't lead in anything. It's just amazing. So anyway, so they have that ingredient of the team that you can't identify, but it's darn good.
Well, you just said team. It's not necessarily the guys with the big names and the best players. It's the best team.
Right.
And it's not necessarily the best 8 guys you put out in the field. It involves pitching and who you have 10 through 22, 23. There's 26 guys on the team.
Yeah. And they just somebody gets hurt or something. Another guy comes in, he fills in, he does a great job till the other guy comes back.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. And then you have the Yankees, and the Yankees they have so many injuries, and it's their pitching. They're starting pitching other than Cole. And they have Tanaka.
Yeah.
And because Paxton is out, and they have that guy Happ. What's his name? His name is Ian. Yeah. And so.
No, that's Ian Happ.
He's with Chicago.
Oh,
He's
that's
with
right.
Chicago.
Yeah,
AJ Happ.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
And
One
so,
of the Happs.
Yeah, and so he's a good pitcher.
They're happy.
But they're another team with a lot of good relief pitchers.
Yeah.
And then their hitter, all their guys have been hurt. LeMahieu. They had Stanton. They had Judge has been out. And they've all been out, and they've been out for a significant amount of time. And they were doing really well, best record, and then they started to come down near 500. Now they're getting all their guys back. They all have about 7-8 games to get ready.
And what did they do this week?
They won every game. They won 10 in a row.
Yeah. And
did they hit some bombs?
they hit
That.
they hit 19 home runs in 3 games. And I think they had several last night, too.
Probably.
Now, you would think that of all the players, you'd think Stanton and Judge. And now who's leading the major leagues in home runs? Luke Voigt. And he hit one today. So he's got 21.
Yeah, just when you count them out, when they were 21-21, they won 10 in a row.
And so they are peaking at the right time. And we talked about this at the beginning of the year. We all kind of said, who do you think's going to get the series? And we all said favorite would be the Dodgers. And, I think...
You said Atlanta.
I said Atlanta and Minnesota. That was my pick. Yeah. But the Dodgers and...
the Yankees.
Yeah, Dodgers and the Yankees. So we all picked them for that whole... If it was 162 games, I think overall they're the best teams, best organizations. And it looks like that's the case.
But Kelly, if you hadn't picked 27 for home runs for this year, would you even know that Voigt has 21? I mean, you're really counting on this guy.
Well, no, I counted. You know what? I thought.
It's not like you got money on it.
I thought Judge was going to be the guy. Yeah. He had 9 in 18 games, and then
Judge not.
He got hurt. So that's them. Also, Toronto Blue Jays. They don't play in their own country. They're playing at Buffalo. They've done a great job. Their front office tried to help them at the trade deadline because they brought in Tajon Walker and try to get their pitching up. Rob from Arizona they got at the deadline, that left-handed pitcher, to try to help them out. So they got the young guys, Vladdy Jr., they got Biggio, they got Bo Bichette, and they have this guy Tisco Hernandez, who's their power hitter. He got hurt. Yeah. So they're right there. They're 500, but they're right there. So those are the 3 teams. And
the Yankees, what Paul was referring to was Toronto in that one game, but the 19 they hit in that 3-game series, they hit back to back to back. Guy strikes out and back to back.
Yeah.
So they had 5 home runs out of 6 guys.
I don't think that's ever happened.
No,
so
they can rake
those are the teams that'll probably definitely the Tampa and New York will get in there, and then I think Toronto's going to get in there. So that's.
Thanks for coming, Kel.
Thank you.
And since these guys are major Angel fans, I got stuck with the AL West. So let me talk about that a little bit. There's Oakland. Oakland's a good team. Beyond Oakland, the cheaters are there. The cheaters are right around 500, depending on what day it is. But I think they have something. First of all, they're starting to get a little healthier, and it looks like Altuve has finally remembered how to hit without trash cans being hit first.
Right.
So, and Lance McCullers is off the 10-day IL. He threw a 2-hit ball for 7 a couple of days ago. So, pitching is so important in these short series. Who knows? And Dusty Baker, he brings a very calm force to the Astros, and it's something they really needed. They have a chance. I don't give them much of a chance to go anywhere. Oakland is obviously going to win the West. And I would say that they have, in that division, the better chance to reach the series if either of them could. I also have the NL Central. I talked about Chicago a couple of weeks ago. The Cubs are just an all-round good team without being great. If it weren't for Yu Darvish, though, they'd be sitting at around 500. He has lifted them and carried them by himself. He and Jason Hayward has been Jason Hayward this year. So many years he's disappointed, but he's playing ball.
They got a lot of guys hitting around 200 or less.
They do.
And Rizzo and Bryant and Baez. They're all right around 200 or less.
And Hayward hit that important home run.
Yeah. Individually, the Cubs are playing disappointingly, but as a team, somehow they're pulling it off. A little Wrigley magic, perhaps. I don't know.
Well, they got pitching.
They do.
Their pitching is held. I mean, they got Hendricks, Darvish. Lester hasn't had a great season, but he's a competitor.
He is a competitor.
And he knows what to do in the playoffs. So there's 3 starters right there. Mm-hmm. And really, in the first series, you only need 2 for 5 games, really, because they're going to have everybody's going to have between 2 and 3 days off in between the regular season, start of the playoffs, and during the playoffs and before the World Series.
Then they could really.
So if you just got 2 good guys and maybe a decent third guy, you got a shot.
Yeah.
Nobody's got really a lights out closer. A couple of teams are
Oakland,
but nothing. So I think it's all going to be on starting pitching.
Right.
To go 5 innings.
And
bring in everybody else.
Well, I think this is the most interesting division because they still have, a bit of a race. Certainly for the wild card, there's a race, and even for second place, there's a race.
Yeah.
And even though I believe going into today, Milwaukee was, the least of the teams in the hunt. They can pave their own way because their schedule. Puts their destiny in their own hands. And that's not the case with anybody else. I think they end up with 5 games with St. Louis. So that's huge. Cincinnati, I mean, after you talk about Trevor Bauer, you talk about a lot of disappointment, I think. Who else?
Well, they have.
Moustakas hasn't done much.
Yeah, but they have those good pitchers, though.
Exactly.
And if that's the case, if they get in,
pitching is all.
They will be a better playoff team than maybe during the season because they got Castillo, and he's starting to really pitch good. He looks like a number 1 starter. And then they have Sonny Gray.
Yeah.
So you have Sonny Gray, you have Bauer, you have Castillo.
Can he make up his mind? Is it Sunny
or is it
Gray? I mean, don't be wishy-washy. Come on.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's confused.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. So, and I also have the National League East, and real quick, that's Atlanta. Atlanta really looks good, but this year it's more their hitting than their pitching because they had their pitchers were hurt, and
they got Fried back.
Fried came back, but they were putting everything on Mike Sirocco, and he got hurt.
Yeah, he's out.
But they have their hitting they have Acuna, they have Osuna, they have Adam Duvall, the catcher Arnerd is their catcher that's been around a long time, is really hitting good. So they're they don't have anybody that's really doing a lot of home run power or anything like that, but they're doing good, and they're they're in first place. They're 31-22. Then you have Miami, and if you think Tampa Bay doesn't have anybody, you know, the only one I know on Miami is Jeter.
Who?
Jeter, and he owns the team. I mean,
well, we knew Eddie Alvarez, but he's not with them anymore.
And I'm advocating that they change their name because the Marlins is not a. I don't think the Marlins is a good. I think they should be called the Jeters, not the Cheaters, because if
Houston already has that.
If Paul Brown can name, the Browns is named after him, Hall of Famer like Jeter and what he's done. I'm gonna.
Well, he took a lot of heat right after they, unloaded guys, and he got there, and everybody was on his case. And 3 years later,
but and so if they can't think of anything, I think the Jeters would be a good name. He's a winner. You identify that as a winner, not a Marlin.
I'm sure just the fact that you've mentioned it on our podcast, that'll come.
Well, that's
about
something for
year.
the executives to think about in Miami, right?
Or not.
And then you have Philadelphia. They're right on the cusp. I think they're going to make it. They hit a pretty good streak there just last week or so. They were like 8-2, and they have some good players. One in particular that I like that nobody's heard of is Sixto Sanchez. And I haven't been that excited about a name in baseball since Sixto Loscano.
There you go.
With Milwaukee. So
Sixto's right in the middle between 5-0 and 7-0.
Yeah,
Sixto.
I got a cat with 6 toes.
Yeah. If you put those two players, Sixto Loscano and Sixto Sanchez, together in a room, you'd have 12 toes.
You'd have 12. Yeah.
Ta-da-ta.
Hello.
Oh. Okay. So they're going to probably make it. They started off with all their games were had COVID. They got off to a slow start playing, but man, when they hit, and then they played all the double headers, and they're still there. So
I want to mention a couple of things that happened during the week that don't necessarily mean anything about the standings. Josh Donaldson with the Twins has a strike call that's probably not a strike, steps out, a little conversation with the umpire. Don't know if he didn't acknowledge him, what he said. It wasn't to Donaldson's liking. Hits a home run, and just as he's getting to home plate, kicks a little bit of dirt on the home plate, goes past home plate. Umpire ejects him. He comes back either one or two things. Either he heard he was ejected, and it's like, I'm going to do a Billy Martin and cover the whole plate, or maybe he thought he missed home plate, which I don't think he did. But and then he gets ejected. He actually threw him out twice. And so you had a question about.
I do.
Here's the thing: if he missed home plate, and he's past home plate, and he gets ejected, and I think the answer is, it's just like, because there is a rule, if a guy hits a home run and can't make it around the bases, you put in a pinch runner. The guy's got to go home on a home run. So I think that would have been the case. If he missed home plate, there isn't another pitch, the ball hasn't been put into play, they just bring another guy on the dugout to touch home plate.
Another question, though. If he doesn't hit home plate, can an umpire toss a guy without a dead ball situation? I mean, if during a live play, can an umpire toss a guy?
Yeah, I don't know, but I
don't think so.
If anybody had challenged him, he would have just said he touched something because he was so close. I don't think anybody would have known. Also, Trevor Bauer wore his trash can shoes, which looked kind of goofy. If he didn't say what they were, you wouldn't know, but they had a little gray all over them. Tim Anderson then hit a home run off of Trevor Bauer, and because of Bauer's YouTube show he has, I guess he said later, I hope Bauer will discuss that on his YouTube show. Justin Verlander down with Tommy John. He's 37. He's out for next year. That could be the end for him.
Yeah.
And two other quick things. Pete Alonso, he's not having the year he had last year with 53 home runs. Matter of fact, they've got Smith, I think, is playing first base a lot. But Alonso in college at either Florida State, like there's a difference. He wrote a paper on his goals in life, and he said he wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. He got a C because the instructor said to be more realistic.
Ooh.
Yeah. And also, just going back a couple of weeks about Tom Seaver, I meant to mention this, which I thought was a great tribute to him. They didn't have a number on their sleeve or anything like that, but it was just great because Tom Seaver had this motion that a lot of times his left leg went so far forward that his right knee would touch the ground, and by the end of the game, he would have dirt on his right knee. Yeah. So all the players had dirt on their right knee, which I thought was a great tribute.
And what about did he ever get that Coke that he was supposed to get?
Oh, and that, yeah. 1967.
Tell that story. Tell that
1967 is his first year as an All-Star. He goes into and this coincides with the two of them passing away within six days of each other. Yeah. So he comes in, baby face, he's probably looking 18 instead of 22 or whatever. And he comes into the locker room before the All-Star game, and Lou Brock says, "Hey, kid, get me a Coke." And he said, "What are you talking about? I'm on the team." And he says, who are you? And I'm Tom Seaver. He says, "Get your own blankety-blank Coke." And I guess every time they'd see each other at the Hall of Fame inductions or whatever, Brock would say, "Hey, kid, give me a Coke. Get your own Coke. I'm on the team." So, anyway.
Speaking of babyface kids, can I talk?
Oh.
Not that I'm babyface.
Okay.
But there is a player I want to talk about.
Sure.
Zach Davies, San Diego Padres, 26th round draft choice in 2011. He was the 785th player chosen in the draft, and here he is, not only a major leaguer, but in the hunt and performing remarkably well this year. 7-3 with about a 2.5 ERA. But the real reason I wanted to talk about him is because of his nickname. And for those of you who don't know, this babyface ball player's nickname is Bat Boy. And we have somebody in our life who has more than a nickname, Bat Boy. In fact, he had a title, Bat Boy, and that's you, isn't it, Scott?
That is me, Paul, and I'm a little hesitant to talk about it, but I will preface it, and I'll be easier about it, and I'll try and keep this as short as I can because we're have time constraints here. But I don't like whenever I share this, I'm just doing that sharing. I'm not bragging about it. I didn't really do anything. It was just right place, right time. It was meant to be type of thing. I don't want to be this narcissist like the guy who takes his girl out on a date for the first time and they're driving to the restaurant and he's like 10 minutes of me and I did this and I did this, and then he turns and goes, "But you, what do you think of me?" But in 1956, I fell in love with the Los Angeles Angels of the Pacific Coast League and a guy named Steve Bilko. This is the Bilko Athletic Club book by Galen White, and it details about Steve Bilko and the 56 Angels. Steve Bilko was like Babe Ruth back then. He hit almost 150 homers in 3 seasons. He was 6'1", about 240. He was built like Babe Ruth. We had no teams west of St. Louis then, so I fell in love with that team. After 57 is done, the Dodgers move in. In 61, Gene Autry somehow he's just going for the broadcast rights, and he gets his team on December 7th, I think, of 1960. A couple days later, I asked my mom, "Mom, how can I get to be a Bat Boy?" "Honey, I don't know, but I'll try and find out." So she's working for Gene Autry at the time for his record company. We never thought that was the end-all and be-all. Probably didn't hurt, I guess. Never met Gene Autry at the time. My mom also had a lady working in the front office, which probably helped. I asked her years later, "How did I ever get the job?" And she said, "I threw away all the other applications." So I don't know that she did, but she was that type of lady that might have. So December 7th, they get a team. Before the first of the year, they have to get a general manager, which they do, and then a manager, which they do, and then they interview for the Bat Boy. So obviously they had their priorities straight. Yeah, general manager, manager, Bat Boy. Met Fred Haney, the general manager, which would never happen today, and that was December. January comes along, nothing. February, nothing. March, April, season starts about April 9th. They're on the road for like 18 days, nothing. Day before they open up, April 27th, 2 days before, on the 25th, I get a call from the equipment manager to come down to Wrigley Field, which was also great, because that's the team that the Pacific Coast League Angels played at. And I go down there and talk to him and be back the next day at this time. It was a day game. I just think I'm going to be the clubhouse kid. I'm fine with that, And I go down there like a movie, and I don't know what I'm doing. "Hey, kid, do this, do that." And like an hour before the game, "Hey, kid, suit up." What are you talking about? He's the Bat Boy. So I was a bat boy for the Angels' first home game. I was there in 61, 62, part of 63 when I wanted to play ball. I went to play on the American Legion team. But and so Steve Bilko was on that team at Wrigley Field in 61. And 62 was a great season. We're in first place on July 4th, still in contention in September as a second-year expansion team. And it was just a dream. It's still to this day. I mean, a kid that just loved baseball, and I was lucky enough to have that opportunity for a couple plus years. So
Wow.
I can elaborate on some stories later on, but
Yeah,
I want you guys
definitely.
to get a couple of last things in.
Don't you hate it when he just goes
Oh,
on
that-
and on
that-
and
that's-
on about himself?
That's
I mean,
kind
my
of
goodness.
that's like
What do you think of me?
that's like leaving it open, and then you go to a commercial break, and people want to have more. What? Wait, what? It's just getting warmed up. So
We'll talk more about Bat
Yeah.
Boy days, I'm sure,
Yeah.
as the SPK Speak Sports season continues.
I got to get this in, though, because it relates to this date, September 20th. Sorry about the algorithm, but September 20th, this gentleman, Lou Gehrig, has 4 RBIs to break his own American League record in a season that he set 4 years earlier with 175 RBIs, ends up having 184 for the year. Not the Major League record, because the year before, Hank Wilson had 191 RBIs, along with 56 homers and a .356 batting average. Unbelievable. In 1959, the Giants played their last game at Seal Stadium. The Dodgers in 61 played their last game at the Coliseum. In 1968, Mickey Mantle, this gentleman here, hits his last home run, 536. When he retires, he's third on the list behind Mays and Ruth. He's now 18th. And
Wow.
in 1998, Cal Ripken sits himself down for the streak that ends at 26-32. I'm sure the whole game he went, he's in the dugout. Am I supposed to sit here?
yeah,
Oh, I do. So that's this date in history. I'm sorry.
The Bat Boy had to tell him where to sit.
yeah.
What do we have, Nancy? Like 20 more minutes?
1 minute.
1 minute. Okay. Go ahead.
I'd like to wish a somewhat belated happy birthday to Roger Angel. 100 years old yesterday.
Wow.
Great baseball writer. Unbelievable. I think he wrote, what was it, The Summer Game in 72. I remember as a kid, that was the big thing for all of us in high school, I think, reading that book. Wrote for The New Yorker for years about baseball. Anyway, happy birthday, Mr. Angel.
Do
Absolutely.
you have a Bud Frillo story?
I don't think we have time.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Next week.
Okay, next week.
We'll have that next week. Also, I didn't have time because I had to talk about me for a few minutes. I'm going to give a couple of trivia questions at the end of next week's show for you to answer if you'd like. Okay, so it says, the whiteboard says wrap it up. So that's exactly what we're going to do.
Like a burrito.
We are going to be drinking our Mutton Buster beer. The best thing about this beer is the back of it, where you can just put this on your fence here in Idaho and shoot away. Thank you for joining us. For Scott, that's me, Paul, and Kelly. Adios.
Adios.
Okay, this is episode 10 of SPK Speak Sports.
Speed.
My name is Scott,
I'm Paul.
I'm Kelly.
and we are SPK Speak Sports. We're going to talk a little baseball.
Okay,
for-
cut.
That-
What happened?
Let's go bloopers.
This is SPK Speak Sports.
Okay, now, everyone say something.
At the same time? No, okay. I'm going to talk about the NL.
And I'm going to talk over Scott.
No, we're not going to interrupt, and we're not
There's
going to say anything.
Giolito. There's the Dodgers. Dodgers are still on top. Big
It's
surprise.
time for
Hey,
SPK Speak
smile.
Sports.
On Eric Talent, I can just feel is going to go ballistic in a second. We're just going to have a tantrum.
Well, if it's talent, it's got to be Scott.
What'd you say?
I said if it's talent, it's got to be Scott.
Get out of here.
You hit the ball out of the park with SPK Sports. You hit the ball out of the park with Scott, Paul, and Kelly. You hit the ball out of the park, Speak Sports.